Hey, church. Good to be with you up here. Had to make a run back, dash to the dim sum, but I just followed my nose to the good smell. So thanks for joining us online. I'm gonna get set up here. I'm gonna join you on the chat here on my trusty computer. What a good series, what a good service. I think just the idea of come rain or shine is so key. Because that's the only thing we're guaranteed in life is like some crazy weather, some crazy circumstances, and that they always change. And so to make the commitment to stand, I think is so, so great. And I don't know about you guys, but I always learn a word listening to Pastor Brett. I learned a lot about the guy swallowed by a whale. That's pretty incredible. Threw out the word elucidated and used that just like commonly. Always learn a word a day with Pastor Brett. I don't know if you feel that way too. Chime in the chat if you're the only one who's vocabularily challenged, as I prove a point right there. If you're always learning a word, but it'd be good. We're gonna have some guests dropping in from time to time. Some of them you met during the service, and so it won't just be me chatting here. They're getting mic'd up right now, as you probably saw from service, and as we zoomed up, there's a lot going on, and so it's fun to make it happen, and I'm so glad you get to take part in it. I know some of you guys are in quarantine right now, so thanks for joining us. Danny, Uncle Brian, thanks for jumping in. Jim's in England, some of you in Indonesia, all over the world. Thank you for joining and to kind of feed your soul for what you were made for. So stuck in a room, locked in a room, or in a different country, so glad that you could join us. I'm gonna start pouring some tea. Tiff, do you wanna join us here? Let me give you some tea. We're gonna get her all set up. Hi, Tiff.
Hello, hi everyone.
She's coming in from 9th floor, 11th floor, maybe all the other floors with Marvel and kids, and you're next to youth, and it's a busy morning, isn't it?
Very busy morning.
So we're exhaling right now as we drink some tea. Can I just kind of cheers and thank you for your partnership in the gospel.
Thank you.
We're also gonna have someone else joining us in a moment. Jared, now, what were you guys up to? Tell where Jared is now and what you guys were doing today.
Yes, we had a 5th grade graduation. We are sending our 5th graders off, celebrating their milestone as they will begin their journey in youth next week. So, awesome. So Jared's speaking to the parents right now and preparing them for this transition.
Well, how do you prepare parents for that's a tough task he has in a couple of minutes to get ready for the craziness of middle school and high school. But I'm not sure if you're online how plugged in you are or not yet, but just as we tried to highlight today through a crazy Zoom call and a link tree, proudly called a family tree now, there's a lot of opportunities because we honestly need help. We're both parents.
Yes.
We do the stuff behind the scenes, but we're just as desperate for those resources, the community. And so if you're not yet plugged in online, we'd encourage you to check it out, get plugged in. And, you talked about FX. There was one a few weeks ago, and I had been off that week. It was wonderful. I literally just showed up to church with my kids, and it was like the greatest thing. I was so proud of our church just to think, man, as a family, this is what you need. You just need a win.
Yes.
And you need someone to help kind of say, hey, talk about this. This is a helpful way to talk about it and to laugh together.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yes.
It's so good. Because, my 21-month-old, he doesn't quite get Pastor Brett's sermons yet. Hey, Jared. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah.
We were just talking about what you were doing. I've never done the middle before, actually. This is going to be exciting.
Okay, it's a sandwich.
Yep. I'm going to get you some tea.
Wow, thank you so much.
Jared. Jared works with our youth for quite a few years now. Mm-hmm. As you saw, brings the energy. And
love it.
So do you think Jesus was more of an extrovert or introvert? You're quite the extrovert yourself.
I am.
Are you more like Jesus than maybe the introverts in this world? What do you think, Jared?
Terrible question.
Welcome to Dim Summary.
That's how beautiful Christ is, though. He embodies kind of both, right? You see where he retreats and he prays by himself, and there's actually still crowds pursuing him, but he says, this is my time where I need to be alone. And then there's the times where he is the people person, and he's in the crowd, preaching, healing. And so he definitely, regardless, has a deep love for people and humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I tried to throw you under the bus, and you just started driving it, man.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
You just started driving that bus. Way to go. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Tiff, the most important part of dim summary, besides the theological, relational conversation, is the food.
It's a food.
Could you help us know if maybe they have a bad internet connection, it's kind of blurry at home? What are we gonna be eating here? as we
Sure.
chat?
This dish here is lo bako, the cabbage cake
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
that you normally eat in Chinese New Year.
Yeah, very good.
Yes, when you go Bai Nin, this is what they would present on the table.
Yeah.
Love it.
This is 牛肉, beef.
Beef.
right?
There we go.
Yes.
Awesome.
And this, it looks like a mini siuma. Mini hagao.
Yep.
Yes, that's hagao over there.
Hagao is
One of the popular dish for dim sum is to have the hagao,
Yep.
the aoyo, and lo bako.
So good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Your pronunciation is a little better than ours, so I really
Slightly,
appreciate it.
just-
Yeah. Now, Jared, do you prefer the IKEA meatballs or the dim sum meatballs if you had to go head to head in competition?
No. I just love meatballs. It doesn't matter. They're all good.
We should put some ketchup.
Yes, there you
That's the
go.
Good.
mix.
Don't they also, the Swedish ones have like jelly with them as well?
Really?
Yeah, IKEA, you can get
Oh,
a bunch of condiments.
I remember it came out years ago that they actually had horse meat in them.
Yeah,
so
let's not talk about that one.
The sad thing is, it didn't dismay me. I like the horse meat,
no.
so yeah, this is good.
All right.
Okay, so you two, I've thrown you, as I mentioned, under the bus, but you haven't got to hear the message yet because you were up like Jesus serving diligently, so faithfully. But the topic of the message today was forecasting your future. Trying to understand how do the decisions we make today impact our future and what we're giving our heart to, which is kind of exactly what your ministries do. You're helping pour into the next generation, help direct them the right way. But here's the catch. As a parent, as someone who's worked with students and kids, it's also the busiest time of life. You know, like if you're like, when is it hardest maybe to get involved at church? It's when you have the chaos of kids and youth and those issues. So, Tiff, kind of talk to us about that. If there's families at home struggling with what all of us struggle with, what do you notice in that season and walking with parents and parents who say, both parents will say it's hard, but some who either drag each other to church or come crying. I don't know, maybe it's the parents crying and the kids are happy. What's the difference? Why should they come in the midst of this hardship called parenthood?
Yes. Well, as a mother of 3 kids and a working mom,
Yeah.
life can be a little bit chaotic,
Very nice.
very busy. But it's important to always find ways to actually connect with your kids and to be intentional because life can be busy. Especially in September, everything's starting, school's starting, their soccer leagues are back in place, all the after-school activities. You've got to really be very intentional about connecting with your child. And I feel that for our family, coming to church just bring us all back together in place.
Yeah.
And I would also encourage, we want to help parents win. That's our role as a church. We want to walk alongside parents and help them win.
Yeah.
Yes, and here at church, we want our kids to meet the right people. We want them. We have small group leaders assigned to their group because parents, you would want to have like-minded adults to speak into your child,
Totally.
to be influencing your child and love on them.
Totally.
Yes.
And that, we pitch care groups as a church so often, and we say it's the most important thing you do is to be known by people and to walk with people. Even if you come and you're new, that's something in our newcomers lunch we say it's so important to find that group. And both of your ministries have modeled that, saying even from a young age, it's important to have peers, and then at your age, mentors, aunties and uncles who love them and love Jesus. So Jared, I know that's a big part of youth ministry too, in the model you've built is a small group
For sure.
model. Yeah. Can you talk to us kind of about, because I think every time we look at kids or youth, it's fun because we can talk about it from a distance, but we also know what's true for them is usually what's true and good for us too. The impact for a student and their roller coaster of emotions in life, of having friends that are walking together and also someone who's one step further than them, kind of pouring into them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's obviously people in our lives that are wiser than us. They are maybe, a little leagues ahead
could
of us.
imagine, yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean older necessarily. There are peers that can be super wise, but I do think it's essential to have all these relationships working together. Something I tell our students, or our leaders that lead students, is that our students aren't necessarily looking for more friends. You can be friendly, but they actually are looking for a leader. They're looking for an adult who is not their parent that they can share with, that they can walk alongside life with, ask the challenging questions, maybe vent, talk about whatever in light of Christ and in light of their faith. And so that's kind of the constant push, is having these relationships that keep us accountable, that keep us set on a direction of walking with our faith, right?
Yeah, that's so good. And
Yeah.
we talked about in service, one of the things we talked about was, hey, this whole life isn't a formula. It's not predictable. You can't do A plus B and ensure C. And so it really is a life of faith, kind of just walking what in God's wisdom instead of trying to make A plus B happen. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of the longevity of a small group, to say, hey, week in, week out, you never know when that conversation
Sure.
or relationship's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to have a long-term effect.
Well, I think the consistency though of care groups and of small groups and of even coming on Sunday morning. I mean, we're so forgetful of the gospel. The consistency of every week, we're gonna show up, we're gonna be here, really is a blessing, I think, to all of us, that we've committed to walk together in life. But you're right, you don't know what tomorrow holds. I was just looking at James the other day that was kind of talk about boasting about tomorrow. That you don't know what's happening tomorrow, and but the Lord does, that God does, and so just setting yourself up for wisdom and making wise decisions, and yeah.
And as parents, they can also look ahead and anticipate what might and might not happen, and start actually planning on it.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
from their own experience, right? I mean, you don't have to admit that to your kids, but you
Yeah.
watched the path you took,
Yeah.
and you can
Yeah,
have some
yeah.
helps along the way.
Yes, that's all planning ahead.
Yeah, I love this message. Reminded me of one of the most impactful ones I heard as a uni student. It was taken from Proverbs 7. So if you haven't read Proverbs 7, when you want to read about wisdom and the direction you're headed and the path, go check that out. And I think it was Andy Stanley had a book or a talk or a podcast on that. But he talked about the principle we talked about of the path. And he talks about your direction determines your destination. And so Proverbs 7 is this beautiful allegory. I don't know the proper English. English is really hard. Of a guy watching from like the second floor as this young boy heads to his destruction, as he's tempted and seduced and chooses to go this way and that way, believe this instead of that. And I always found that as a uni student, just it really got me. Saying all those small choices he made along the way to avoid destruction, at the end, he says like an ox going to the slaughter. And what the key was is there's this older guy who's been there before, and he's like, you didn't have to do that. And so to have this guy in your life, not just watching, he should have come down.
Oh, yeah.
He should have.
Right.
If we could rewrite the Bible, he came down and he saved this kid.
Come on.
But he hadn't met Jesus yet because it was
Yeah.
Old Testament. So we'll stay with that. But I think that's the beauty of what the community, online, in church, is about, is having people watching out.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing new under the sun. What people struggle with greed and pride and lust thousands of years ago, is at the core of our sin problem now. Yeah.
And that's where, I mean, having people with grace and truth in your life is not a bad thing. Sometimes truth can be offensive.
It can be hard,
It can be
right?
hard.
Yeah.
It can hurt. But if you were to have that individual, speak into his life, and they're like, well, why am I in this situation? My life is, awful. Well, I maybe not in that moment you counsel, but you work through. Well, actually, there were a lot of decisions that were made that led to this, this situation.
Yeah.
And so obviously now we're gonna rebuild you, and we're gonna, encourage you and empower you and push you further, right? And I'm gonna stick with you. It's not I'm no longer your friend. I'm not, condemnation and judgment. But it's like, no, I'm going to speak truth into your life graciously, but I'm gonna stay with you and walk through life together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I didn't know about you, Tiff, as I think about who had a big impact in my life. And there were friends, but I also come to mind older people and like a mentor. And those people often told me great things about myself and called stuff out, but they also were the few who told me hard things, right? Like, because they've been there and they love me enough, and I let them in enough to say hard things. So I don't know if you think about anyone who's had an impact, whether it was a teacher or a coach, but they say hard things.
They do, and to be honest, you listen to those adults and individual over your parents,
Yeah.
even though it's the same message, but just coming out from different person.
Yeah.
That person actually you will hear what that person say, but not your parents sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a tennis player, and when you have a tennis coach, you don't want them only clapping. You're like, their value is helping you correct and adjust,
I
right?
never listen to my dad when he coaches me.
There you go.
Well, see, that's why we need other people besides
we need
our
other
parents.
people to say the fault.
I don't know.
That's
I
awesome.
love a good yes man that is on my team, but it's probably not always healthy. It's not healthy. It's not healthy.
That's awesome. Well, hey, before we head out, PPS, I see your comment in the chat. So sorry, man, about what is going on, but want you to know we do have pastoral care here. We'd love to talk and pray with you for something that's not just a one-liner to try to connect. We need to listen and hear, so we'd love to reach out. I'll jump on right after this, and maybe Hill can help too. We'll get you in touch with pastoral care, and we'd love to meet your need. I think that's the beauty of the church community. Whether it's you're on the mountaintop or the valley low, we walk together. And so thanks so much for being vulnerable and sharing that. We'll get connected. You guys, thank you so much for what you do. There are a lot of highs and a lot of lows on the 9th and 11th floor and at home every day, but thank you for pouring into students and to kids and to those who need to find people who love them and love Jesus. So thank you, church. If you're at home, just give a golf clap for them. And we appreciate you guys.
An honor.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to keep eating around here. I hope you get some good lunch at home, but we'll catch you next week. Oh, Dim Summary is going to be different next week. It's going to be awesome. As quick fixes come in, Dim Summary is going to take a little shift in a good direction. So make sure to tune in next week. Love you guys. We're going to eat here.
Yes.
We'll see you later.